Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Positive Girl podcast with me, Sabrina. This is the show that helps you become your best self, and today we are talking about how to work on unhealthy guilt and shame. It's a continuation from the episode that came out previous to this, so I would suggest if you haven't listened to that one yet on how to tell the difference between guilt and shame, listen to that one first. But before we jump into today's episode, as always, I want to invite you to come say hi to me on social media, on TikTok and Instagram. I'm at Sabrina Joy Perozzo. I am doing all kinds of content over there that's in addition to the podcast, and even doing like some quick videos on, compounding, combining all of the tips and everything that I do in the podcast in like a 30-second video, just to kind of have another thing for you to save and refer back on. Also, if you look in the show notes, you'll be able to sign up for my weekly newsletter that now comes out on every Wednesday. I needed to find a day where nothing else was happening so I can dedicate my attention to that. You can also sign up for the Facebook group, which is the Real Positive Girl community on Facebook. You can also anonymously submit topic suggestions for the show, and there's all kinds of other stuff there. So just check out the show notes below for everything you need to contact me. Send me an email, come say hi, let's be friends online, all of those things. But let's go ahead and just jump into today's topic, which again is how to work on unhealthy guilt and shame. So in the previous episode, like I mentioned, we talked about the differences between guilt and shame, and also learned there is healthy guilt and unhealthy guilt. And again, if you haven't listened to that episode, I highly suggest that you do so, because we definitely go through some real life examples of what it looks like to deal with shame, deal with healthy guilt and unhealthy guilt. So I'm not talking about healthy guilt in this episode because I already went over it pretty well in the previous episode. So if you need more context on that, or if you feel like I did not go over it enough, feel free to send me an email or let me know on social media. I'm totally open to feedback and wanting to help you guys the best I can. So naturally, I didn't want to leave you hanging with only knowledge on how to identify all three of those things in your life. So today we are going to talk about how we can work on cutting back unhealthy guilt and shame. So shame and guilt feel like issues that would be difficult to deal with, because it just feels like a natural thing we have in us, right? It's just something native to who we are, and not something we can just easily rid ourselves from, right? It just feels like it's just there. It's just part of our personality, like laughing really loud and like randomly shouting out funny pieces of facts. I don't know. I'm kind of describing I'm kind of describing myself right here. But yeah, so it just feels like it's part of us. But, I'll be honest, it probably won't be easy. It won't be easy just to like move on from either or both of these things, because that's just generally not how that works with emotional and mental health. It will take time and emotional work, but it can be done. And, just so you know, it's not one thing, like one and done kind of thing. Like that's not what this is going to be. It's more often than not with anything in regards to emotional health and mental health and dealing with your emotions and your feelings, you'll be continually working on it for the foreseeable future, for however long it specifically takes you. Because one person, they can maybe work on it for a few months and it's fine. Someone else, it might take years. I have been in the category of both of those things, and that's okay. There is no shame or guilt. You don't need to feel bad about that for it taking longer than maybe someone else. Maybe someone else is claiming it didn't take that long and they actually didn't do all the work. Really consider that. Consider the fact that people just lie. People just want to pad their ego and make themselves feel good and be like, oh no, I'm already over that. I've conquered that in just 1 month. And you're like, okay, well, I guess we'll see, as time will tell. So anyway, just something for you to consider. Do not feel bad if it takes you longer to work on that and work through anything really in your life. So let's talk about unhealthy guilt first, just so we can kind of like get an idea of what this is. So unhealthy guilt is when you feel bad for things that like just didn't happen, didn't affect others like you think it did, or things outside of your control. Now, just take a moment and consider, doesn't it sound silly to admit that we can feel bad about things that happened knowing these were outside of our control? Like, I think it's just bonkers, right? It boggles my mind, despite me knowing that I do this too. So don't feel like you're alone. Don't feel like, oh, Sabrina, you're making fun of me. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am in the same boat as you. I am right there with you. Don't you worry. Don't worry about it. So yeah, it just boggles my mind though. But it's easy to get caught up in unhealthy guilt because, especially if you tend to be a people pleaser and you just want to like make sure that everyone else is taken care of, never take care of yourself, focus on everyone else, think that you're a piece of trash. This is easy for you to get caught up in, unfortunately. So today, I'm going to give you 4 ways on how to work through your unhealthy guilt. And then when we get to shame, I will also give you 4 ways to work through shame. Because I thought 4 was just enough, not too much, but not too little. And as always, before we get into the list of tips and advice, if you do not feel like these things align with yourself or will work for you, or you've tried them before, or you do try them and they don't work, please, I will not feel bad. I encourage you to do your own research, talk to a professional counselor or a therapist. Google is your best friend. This is just based on my own research and advice and experiences from others. So anyway, standard disclaimer that I give, like I think every single episode. Also, one more thing before we jump into the list of tips. I'm using a new microphone today. So if you're like, Sabrina, why does this sound different or off? I don't know. I mean, it's probably because of the mic. So give me some feedback on that. If you're like, no, that sounds like trash. And I'll be like, okay, great. So I just need to like work on configuring it better. But if you're like, it sounds fantastic, or it could be louder or softer or whatevs, let a girl know, because this is all for you guys, all for you. Okay. So here are 4 ways to work through unhealthy guilt. The first one, and these are in no particular order. Wait, I don't think so. No, I did not do them in any particular order. I had to like go over my notes and be like, did I? No, I do not believe I did. First is find evidence that you did something wrong. Now, this sounds very simple. It sounds like, yeah, that sounds like common sense. It sure does. But sometimes it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like common sense. Like, having a different perspective and seeing someone else go through that, you're like, yeah, it sounds like common sense. But when you're knee deep in that and feeling that guilt, it's hard to really like see around you and understand like, okay, what else could be going on besides like me feeling super guilty. So find evidence that you did something wrong. So like the hint here is you probably won't find it 9 times out of 10 because you did nothing wrong. It's unhealthy. It's unnecessary guilt. So I want you to actually ask yourself how you can prove that you should be feeling bad or guilty. And you cannot, I repeat, you cannot base it on assumptions of what others are feeling. This is a no-go. This is like no-fly zone. Please don't do this. It's actually something that I tell real people in my real life to stop making assumptions. And it's funny that I am so passionate about this. My husband's like, "Why are you so passionate about this?" Because now we've all, if you're not new here, you have heard here and there me talk about my crazy childhood and rough it is, and how my dad is like not my best friend. But my dad, I am like, I'm vulnerable enough to admit there was many things my dad taught me and like many good memories, but a lot of bad ones. But one of the things that he taught me was that you shouldn't assume. You should never assume. Assuming is just making an ass out of you. That's what it is. So you can like look at the word and you'll be like, oh yeah, Sabrina, I know what you're talking about. So you should never assume anything. Okay. I understand it can be easy to assume based on history, based on how things have turned out in the past, following people's patterns and really like understanding how they live their life and just knowing that this is like their behavior pattern. However, it is not going to help you actually like find the evidence to see if you're guilty or not if you're relying on assumptions, because you probably don't know for sure if you upset someone unless you ask them. And yes, there's always the possibility that they lie to you about it, but that's on them, not on you, hon. That is on them. If they choose to lie to you and tell you that they're fine when they're not, that they're knee deep in their own problems, okay? So Do not base assumptions. Do not base it on assumptions. So if you feel like you offended someone by calling them the wrong name, ask them, hey, did I offend you when I accidentally called you the wrong name because I didn't remember your name? Yes or no? And if it turns out that they were offended, then just make the situation just make the situation right and move on. Okay, just be like, hey, I'm so sorry that I called you the wrong name. I understand that you're offended. Um, can you let me know how we can make this situation better? Blah, blah, blah. Moving forward. Okay. So, yeah, so if you find evidence that you should feel guilty and you did do something wrong that affected someone else or yourself or whatever, make the situation right and move on. But if you cannot, if you ask them or you discover that by you forgetting to bring some sort of thing to the party or picking someone up late or accidentally sending an email when you weren't supposed to, and none of these things actually turn out to be anything wrong or no one's upset or nothing bad happened, then stop feeling guilty. Realize that you are so conditioned to believe that everything you do is a bad thing, something you should feel guilty for. Because honestly, you need to be careful, because if you do this and you have people in your life that like to dabble in manipulation, they will take advantage of this. And that's literally the last thing that you want. On that note, let's go into number 2, which is work on personal boundaries. That definitely links right up to people taking advantage of you. So if you allow people to take advantage of you and give you responsibility of their emotions, which is a common thing that people that deal with unhealthy guilt go through, they are commonly trying to take responsibility for other people's emotions. If you allow people to take advantage of you and do that, they will. No problem. They're like, okay, yeah, I want you to feel all of that weight and burden and guilt that I am really upset right now. Even though you did nothing to cause that or be a part of that, you were just feeling bad, and now they have someone to blame and lean on because you have made yourself available. You got to learn how to set healthy limits with people in your life. You have to. You have to. I'm telling you. I feel like rarely I tell you things that you have to do on this show. You have to do that. You have to. You have to, okay? Even if that is like work or professional people, which can sometimes be really intimidating, or your family members who you love deeply. A very quick example is me with my dad. My dad is a source of a lot of toxicity and not great things. And I learned the hard way by trying to be really nice and forgiving. And, forgiveness really has nothing to do with this. But in my forgiveness, I was like, okay, well, I will still extend an opening for a relationship. That bit me. But, that's fine. We live and we learn. But you have to, even people that you love deeply, that are your family, your parents, like whatever, you have to set boundaries. You have to set the healthy limits that are best for you. Now, if they don't understand that, you're welcome to tell them about it or tell them why. You don't have to, though. That's not your responsibility. It makes things a little bit easier. Whether they accept your reason or not, that's on them. But I want you to know that, because it can be intimidating with work peeps. It can be intimidating and awkward for family. It's just important to do that. It's so important. So yeah, I have that boundary with my father that I just don't talk to him. I just don't. If he reaches out to me and asks me a question, I will answer it. Generally, he only asks me things in regards to my child. But that's it. And that's it. And it's tough. It was really tough at the beginning because I just wanted to be like, okay, things will change if I'm nicer, if I do something different, or if more time goes by. But absolutely not. Some people just want to take advantage of you, and that's just how it is. We all deserve to be respected and not carry around other people's burdens. So don't allow yourself to do it. Do not allow yourself to do it. I really hope you hear the words coming out of my mouth. Okay, number three. Allow yourself to learn from negative experiences. Now, if you are not new here, you're like, oh my gosh, here we go. Mistakes and failures are some of life's best teachers. Yeah. crowd is cheering. I say this all the time. Mistakes and failures are the best way for everyone to learn whatever. We have to go through them, right? I will sing that from the rooftops for the rest of my life if I have to, for people to accept this piece of knowledge. It's so important. So I titled this learn from your negative experiences because typically we label mistakes and failures and things that didn't work out the way we wanted to, despite all the work and time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears that we put into things. It just doesn't work out and it feels like a negative experience. When in fact, it is a great learning opportunity. Does not feel fun in the moment. Negative 100 fun. Negative 100. But again, you're learning something. You're growing, you're shaping into your best self, which is always continually being built and shaped and formed and made awesome. I was like, I don't know the end to that. Made awesome. Okay, so you have to allow yourself to learn from those things. Yes, you might be really upset when something doesn't work out. I get you. But once you get through however you're going to respond emotionally, take a step back, widen your perspective, and be like, okay, this didn't turn out. That really sucks. What knowledge can I glean, can I take from this experience into the future, into trying again, into showing someone else what I did wrong and what needs to be done differently? Allow yourself to learn from your negative experiences. It's so super helpful. And it allows you also to not be so bitter about those things happening because you're like, well, at least I learned what needs to be different next time, or that I'm not ready, or whatever the circumstance is. Okay, number 4, and the last one of how to work through unhealthy guilt is don't get stuck in negative self-talk without self-compassion. Don't get stuck in negative self-talk without self-compassion. It's one thing to point out what needs to be changed, worked on, and figure out how your thoughts and mindsets came to be. That's the one thing. It's very healthy and great. It's a whole other thing to keep nitpicking and bashing yourself without any desire to figure out how to be better or get the help you need to become better. We don't want to do that. Let's not do that second one at all. Throw in some compassion for yourself, or you will end up taking residence in your pit of despair. And I'm telling you, you don't want to live there. You don't want to start paying rent. You don't want to move your furniture in. You don't want to live there. Okay? It's usually something you pass on by. You're falling a little bit and you climb your way out and you're like, moving on. So don't get stuck in negative self-talk. Again, you're going to want to be like, okay, this is the bad things that are happening. Mix that in with the good things that are happening. Mix that in with things that are getting better. Mix that in with things that you actually are achieving, that actually are going well, that strengths that you have gotten better at, that are alive and well in your life. I'm laughing because I'm like, I just blanked out for a second. But yeah, identify those strengths, identify those positives in your life. Sprinkle that on top of all that negativity. And you're like, okay, life isn't as bad. And this especially works when you do, again, widen your perspective and take a look at the situation as a whole, not just your part in it, but the whole thing of how everyone else is involved or not involved and how it trickles down in different parts of your life and your existence. Something to consider. Okay, now for shame. So as we know, shame is when we truly believe down to our core that we are not worthy of anything, don't have the ability to become better people, like we truly believe we do not have the ability to do so, and you only see yourself in a negative light. You're like, no, nothing good is here. I need to hide myself away. No one wants anything to do with me. I'm a piece of trash. Shame can be so ingrained that it doesn't seem like something we need to fix, rather something we need to embrace because it's a part of us, right? It's just ingrained in there with our personality and everything else. It's about us. That's how we feel. That's how we feel when we're dealing with shame. So here are 4 ways to work through shame. So the first one is identify where the shame came from. So you can't really work on moving through your shame until you identify where it came from so that you can kind of clean up the whole situation as a whole, if that makes sense, right? So it's like you can't put the fire out in a building unless you know where the fire is in the building. Like, where did it start and where is it now, right? You're not going to just attack the whole building. You want to like hit the source. So identify where the shame came from. So this could be like a childhood experience. Maybe you struggle with like self-criticism in your own life with your own like mental health, emotional struggles. Maybe it's from like an unreached high expectation that you have for yourself, or that someone else is trying to bestow upon you. How nice of them. So you really need to identify like where this shame came from. And it even could come from like judgments and opinions from other people that you've internalized and have been told to believe or decided to believe and take up as your mantle and your way to live your life, which kind of sucks. I get that. I definitely experienced that as well. So you're not alone in that if that happened to you. So number one, identify where the shame came from. Number two, separate who you are from what you did. Now, I feel like this is applicable for not just shame, but just like overall life advice. Separate who you are as a person from what you do in your life. So that could be your work, that could be volunteer, that could be even being like a mom or a wife. All of these things, right? You are not your experiences. You are not your mistakes. You're not your failures. You're not your family, right? You just use these things to learn, grow, change, and better understand other people in your life, and then just life in general. So if you make a mistake or a failure, you go through something that's really tough, those things don't define you. You have to keep that separation so that you cannot, just pile on more shame that you really don't need. Your overcapacity as it is. So you are not these hard things that you go through. Just because your family is like maybe horrible, terrible people, it doesn't mean that just because you're family with them, that you are also that thing. That doesn't define you either, right? You're just there. Maybe you're trying to still encourage them, love on them, or maybe you have like finally clicked in those boundaries like I have, and you're like, no, they are my family, but I am not them. They are different from me. I am separate. It's an experience I went through, and that is no longer something I'm part of. So understand that the things that you go through and deal with, these are going to help you learn and grow and change and become and understand life and the people around you better, widen your perspective, hopefully. They are not who you are. Do not identify yourself based on these things, please. Because, again, when you discover where your shame came from, it could come from your childhood. Just because you went through whatever experience in your childhood does not mean that has to latch onto you like a pair of Spanx pants forever to have a billboard of that is who you are forever. No, you do not. You absolutely do not. Okay, so number 3 is deep dive into self-compassion. So the important part of self-compassion, which is just being nice to yourself, loving to yourself, kindness, even like jumping back into when we were talking about guilt, when we said don't get stuck in negative self-talk without self-compassion. So make sure you're highlighting the things that you're getting better on, make sure that the things that you're growing in, progressing in, of course. But another super, super important part in regards to shame is learning to forgive yourself. So a lot of this between guilt and shame, it's a little bit of crossover episode, totally fine. But like in regards to self-compassion, when it relates to shame, you need to learn to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself from the mistakes and failures. Forgive yourself for treating yourself so badly for so long. Forgive yourself in the future when you mess up again, because we all mess up and it's okay. It's not a big deal. Feels like a big deal in the moment. Sometimes it has terrible repercussions that we didn't want to go through or didn't expect. But that is such as life, right? So learn to forgive yourself. Because if you don't, you are definitely giving shame the upper hand and more of a grip, a tight grip on you. And that's not what you want. We're trying to move through it, move past it, work through it, not allow it to dominate and control us. So learn to forgive yourself in the things that you've been through and the things that you've done, because you can always become better and leave that emotional baggage behind you. Okay, number 4, and the last one in regards to shame, working through shame, is practice being vulnerable with someone safe. Now, I'll be honest with you. Out of all of these steps, even all of the ones for guilt, this is the hardest one. This is the most difficult one. It's difficult because being vulnerable is not fun, right? The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Still, I'm not saying it's fun. No. Just because something becomes easier does not make it fun. So just remember that for anything in life. It's like, yeah, it becomes a lot, intuitive for you to clean your kitchen, do your dishes. Doesn't mean it's fun at all. At all. Maybe it is, but, typically not. Being vulnerable takes practice, for sure, but it doesn't make it easy or fun the more you do it. I mean, it makes it easier, sorry, but not fun. However, it's important. This is the most important step for shame, because you cannot expect to escape the prison shame keeps you in if you don't expose it. And I mean exposed, wide open, sunshine hitting it, bam. It's there, It's scary, though. It's scary to be vulnerable and to expose the shame, this deep, dark, secret, gross, yucky. I'm just imagining a cave that's droplets of water going through, and it's just all icky and gross and dark and cold. And that's what it feels like when you're just clinging to that shame because you don't want anyone to know, and you don't know what your life will be and how terrible things will come when you share it, when you air it out. But you will stay in that prison of shame if you do not expose it. Shame is only shame when it's concealed and hidden, right? If it's out in the open and you're being vulnerable and honest about it, it's not holding that grip on you anymore. When you expose it to someone, even just a counselor or a trusted friend, family member, mentor, whomever, someone that you have to trust. Remember, you have to trust them, or it just feels and then the more you do it, the easier it'll be to share it with other people. Maybe you don't trust as much, like me trusting shame, my own personal shame on the internet. It becomes easier. Again, not fun, just easier. But, when you expose it to someone, it has less power over you. Really think about that. Way less power. The chokehold is loosened because it no longer feels like a threat to who you are when you find someone that accepts what you're sharing, your shame, and where it came from, as you're sharing it and they're accepting it as not something to judge, but just something you experienced and are working through, right? So they're not going to be like, oh my gosh, that's the most terrible thing I've heard, or you're so terrible. No, they're going to be like, oh, okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. And that must have been tough for you to deal with. That must be hard for you to work through. How are you working through that? What are you doing? How can I help in whatever capacity that they can, or you want them to? So practice being vulnerable with someone safe. It's really difficult. It's not easy. If you've never done it before, it's very scary. You're like, I can never do that. You don't understand. My shame is so big, bad, and ugly. It's terrible. It will scare some people. Maybe. But that's why you share it with someone safe. That's not going to just out your secret to everyone. So you can at least get it off your chest. And the more that you work through it and are sharing it with them, even if you just talk about it continuously, like if you're going to see a counselor about it and just talk about it every week, it becomes easier to talk about, and you're able to let that chokehold loosen a bit. And then you will gain the courage to share it with someone else, especially if it's someone that you know is dealing with the same experiences and problems that you have dealt with that maybe pertains to this shame. So just consider it. It's tough. It's not easy. It's scary. It's worrisome. It can keep you up at night. But it's so freeing at the same time. You just gotta give it a chance. Again, with someone safe, please, safe and trusting. I'm begging you. But that's it. That's all the tips that I have for working through shame. I shared 4 tips for working through unhealthy guilt. Hopefully that was helpful and beneficial. And again, if you haven't listened to the previous episode, which is the differences between guilt and shame, I encourage you to do so. It's very helpful in being able to identify those things in your life and then now how to work through them. But that's all that I have for you today. So thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast. Again, with me, Sabrina. Check the show notes below for you to sign up for the weekly newsletter, join the Facebook community, submit a topic for the podcast anonymously. Let's see, what else can you do? You can go to the website. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. You can do all the things. You can send me an email. You can do all the things. So whatever you want to do. But I just appreciate you being here, listening, downloading, sharing the show. And I appreciate every single one of you. So thank you. I just love doing the podcast. So until next time, have a good one. And I will see you next time. Bye, guys.